Welcome to this week's Oregon Minute. Take note that we are recording virtually this week due to rising COVID-19 cases in the state. We will likely be recording this way until cases settle down again. But this week we are interviewing Jeanne Carpenter, village president. At least until April 2021, she has decided to not run for re-election, and that is what we will be speaking about today. So, well, thank you for appearing virtually this week, Jeanne. How are you doing?
Very well. Thanks for having me. This is fun.
It's no problem. Yeah, I've enjoyed doing these myself. It's a little, I will admit, it's a little strange doing this from my apartment, but it's a good routine change. So, tell me just in general, how are things going at the Firefly and with with keeping the village board in check?
Oh gosh. So it's everything is so strange because every meeting is done via Zoom. And I guess I knew that, I always knew that being, um, you know, a s running a successful, village board and, just working with people had a lot to do with relationships because I've always been, a consensus builder. I've always, kind of, tried to feel people out, work out things, and that's so hard to do when you're not meeting in person. Um, I'm also really good at reading a room, and there's no room to read. So, I find myself, obviously we have really good discussions on the village board, and I find myself kind of figuring out where things are going to go. But it's so much easier when you're meeting in person. People's body language is says a lot, and so sometimes I feel like our meetings take longer. We have to have more discussion because we can't. I mean, we can see each other like in this little square in the screen, but it's so much harder to read people and than when you're meeting in person. So I don't know. I think governing is easier when people can meet face to face. Especially just that camaraderie before and after meetings makes a big difference on a local level. It reminds us that we're friends, that we all live in the same place, we all shop at the same grocery store. And when you can't do that in person, it just I don't know, it's different. Things take longer. So I don't know. I mean, Zoom is great for keeping us healthy, but it makes things harder for getting stuff done.
Well, I agree with all of what you said. You know, we are social creatures, and and I think it's 80% of communication is body language. And when we're not in the environment, when we're not together to read that body language, then yeah, that makes it a little complicated. So,
Yeah.
what I want to talk about today as well is your decision not to run for reelection, and it sounds like there are a couple of different reasons for that. So, would you mind just giving me some more insight into that? Um,
Oh gosh, sure. So I'm in my eighth year on the village board, and never expected it or thought it would be a career. So first of all, 8 years is a long time to do anything. And then second of all, I think in fact, I know I would be running again for village board if we weren't in the middle of a pandemic. Running a coffee shop is I mean, if you come into the Firefly or if you know me at all, you know I'm there every day. I'm baking in the morning, so I'm getting there at 3 o'clock in the morning. A day off for me is if I can go in and bake for 4 hours and then go home. That's a day off. I mean, anybody who runs a small business or runs a restaurant works 7 days a week. You get off maybe you get off 7 or 10 days a year. You work weekends, you do everything. And I don't mind doing that because I really enjoy it. I like working. The problem is that the stress of the pandemic and the stress of keeping my doors open and meeting payroll is a lot to take on in addition to the 20 hours a week if not more, that being village president takes. And so for that 20 or 25 hours I'm spending at Village Hall, those are hours that I need to be thinking about my business. I need to be marketing my business a little bit more. We have 15 employees. We have 8 full-time employees. We pay living wages. Our full-time people make upwards of $40,000 a year. And I feel an obligation to make sure that those people keep their jobs. They have families that they're supporting. The majority of them live in Oregon. They have relocated to Oregon to work at the Firefly. We have people who've been working at the Firefly for, up to 5 years that they were working there when we bought the business. They're still there. It's a career choice. Uriah and I, my husband and I, have discussed it. He would like me to keep running on the board because I think I don't know, it's fun to talk, it's fun to talk about, discuss things with someone, but at some point I need to sleep. That's the long and short of it. At some point I just need to sleep. So yeah, I don't know, I'm going to be 49 in February. So, give me 10 years, maybe, there's people like Jerry Ball, like he's on his second, multi-decade run on the village board. He was on the board, he was off, then he's back on again. It gets in your blood. I've told people that, even if I'm not on the board, I may show up to a committee meeting or something just because I don't know, I'm one of those weird political geeks. I find municipal government fascinating, and that sounds weird to people, but I don't know. At the local level, you can actually get stuff done, and I like getting stuff done. So that has been very satisfactory.
And that kind of leads into my next question is, I would assume that you're going to focus more on the Firefly, which is what you obviously alluded to now, but you know, you'll have, you won't, you'll still appear at a committee meeting here and there, you said, but what's next for you now that you'll maybe have some more time to breathe?
Yeah, I've got no this is not a secret. So I spent 15, 17 years in the cheese industry, right? The artisan cheese industry in Wisconsin, and sort of accomplished pretty much every goal that I had there. And so when I bought the Firefly at age 45, I did that to start a second career because I felt like I had accomplished everything I wanted to in the cheese industry. So when we bought the Firefly, all of my colleagues in the cheese industry were like, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm gonna go build a coffee shop empire. You watch me in 5 years. I'm gonna have coffee shops all over Wisconsin." So obviously, COVID has slowed down that that plan, slowed us down by probably a solid 3 years. But yeah, everyone who knows me knows that I am excited about Firefly Coffee House. I think that we have opportunities to open more Fireflies in Wisconsin. I have staff that are capable and interested in investing and becoming managing partners. Every person I hire, so like I think most people in a restaurant hire someone because they need a body. I'm so particular about people I hire because I'm hiring people for longevity. I'm hiring people who have aspirations to do something more. And so, which has resulted in we have a very solid lineup of staff that are ready to take things to another level. And if we can ever get rid of this COVID crap, we're gonna we're gonna be rocking and rolling. I've told the bank, I'm like, be prepared. I'm gonna be coming knocking on your door. So I'm not going to be sitting around or just catching up on my sleep. We're going to I think we're gonna do things in the coffee shop world. It's who doesn't like to drink coffee? I mean, seriously, there's always going to be a drive, a need for people to get together to have a cup of coffee. A cup of coffee, I always say, is the great equalizer of the world. You can get together with someone for a cup of coffee and solve problems face to face faster than just about anything. So I like the power of coffee.
I mean, considering it sounds like you are a morning lark and both a night owl. So coffee sounds very necessary. But Jeannie, that all sounds really exciting. And the Firefly has been one of my favorite. I mean, I think ever since I started in Oregon, it's been one of my favorite places to come to and just
Oh,
write and hang out, and even just some days look out the window and think about life and just take a pause and reflect. But and that's it sounds like you'll have some room for that as well as growing the
mhm,
Firefly. But so let's backtrack a bit and
sure.
talk about let's reflect on your time as village board president. What's been one of your favorite favorite aspects of being president?
Um, the the best part is that you have your voice carries a little further when it comes to driving the agenda. So, and that was one thing that always frustrated me as a village board member. I could see all these things that the village was capable of, and I didn't feel like I could drive that agenda. So in the last couple of years, it's been very exciting and I'm lucky to have a board that backs me. I'm very transparent. You'll see me being very passionate at board meetings, trying to talk my board into stuff.
No
But
secret.
I'm like, here's what we should do. Let's go change the world. Um, so you'll see me talking about, and we're currently doing this. We're setting aside funds, and we're working to create what is currently non-inspiringly called the Southeast Business Park. Right, so it's on the east side or on the east side of the village, across Highway 14. It's cornfields, soybean fields, grass right now, but um, that to me is we have to start working on land to create places for more businesses to come to Oregon. We can't depend on residential housing to keep growing the new net construction worth, and that's what you build your budgets on, is how what your new net worth is as a village, is how much more you can spend every year to keep building new things. So I'm excited that is rolling. We are working with landowners on that side. We're doing wetland delineations. We've got the capital. Oh God, they're called CARPC, capital area. I don't know. I don't know what CARPC stands for, but they are the regional land folks. So that's all rolling, and it's things like that take a long time. I people know that I am bound and determined to break ground on the library in 2021. Fundraising is still chugging along. We still need, I think, maybe $1.5 million. But I don't know if you saw this, but I put the board on notice a couple meetings ago that come January, when we meet with the library board, I'm going to ask our board to step up and increase the $6 million that we've said that we're going to borrow, to step up and increase that by 1.5 million. Because in addition to coffee, you know what the great equalizer of the world is? Education, access to the internet. We have folks, so if you drive by the library, you'll see people sitting in cars using the internet, right? Doing their schoolwork. You'll see the same thing at the Firefly, people sitting in their cars in front of the Firefly after we close. And I mean, and while that's great, just think if we had a library that they could go to and use, right? So post COVID, libraries are one of the great equalizers of the world. And then also, the thing that I'm really still excited about, and I feel like after me, this path will continue, is that I feel like we have this vision now for the village of the infrastructure and the facilities that we need to keep encouraging people to move here, right? So we have a 5-year capital improvement plan that has a new library. It has a plan for an updated state-of-the-art senior center. It has a plan for either renovating Village Hall or figuring out a new location. It has a plan for adding, at least 6, maybe 8 playing fields in this village. Sports are just absolutely huge here. Soccer, rugby, lacrosse, all these groups bring folks to the village. They bring money into our coffers, whether it's the hotel, whether it's restaurants, they spend money. And so I've been encouraging the board to, in addition to thinking about borrowing money and capping debt, I've been saying, if you all owned a business, you'd be looking at your debt and managing your debt. But the number one thing you'd be looking at is, how do I grow my revenue? Because you can never spend money that you don't have, right? So I've been trying to get people into, let's build infrastructure facilities in the village of Oregon that make people want to move here. Then we can capture their tax dollars and we can keep on a trucking. So I feel like after me, as long as the economy doesn't completely tank, we will keep going in that direction. And so that's exciting to me.
Well,
sorry.
no, that sounds like quite the legacy to leave behind. And I remember this was before my time as government reporter, but Alex wrote that profile about you that appeared in the Observer. And I read that profile, and it outlined a lot of your goals, being, the library as well as affordable housing, and really just really everything that you outlined just now was something that was mentioned in that profile. So that sounds like quite the legacy to leave behind.
Well, I don't know about that, but I would say it's definitely in motion.
What do you think? And I think I know the answer, but what maybe has been the most challenging aspect of being president?
Oh, so okay, so here's a fun fact. When you're on the village board, just as a trustee, you're one of 7, and the public generally sort of leaves you alone. When you're president, like, people look up your phone number and your email because they think that you have magical powers that can make executive orders and can change things like that. And so I get a lot more, like exponentially more angry emails and angry calls from people whose park next to their house wasn't mowed this week. And I'm like, what? So that stuff I was not expecting. I'm like, what? I call Village Hall. Like, how am I going to magically fix this for you? So that's been fascinating, that people think that the village president versus a village trustee has power to change things like that. The way that the village government is made up of, I'm just one of 7 votes. Like, I have no magical powers. My magical powers are, I try to talk my fellow board members into doing what I want to do. That's the extent of my magical powers. So I would say the next village president needs to be aware that, like, people have your number, like, on speed dial on their phone, and they call you when things aren't to their liking. And so that has been challenging, and that was unexpected to me. So that's what I would warn the next village president. Your phone's going to ring a lot more from constituents. And I've tried to help everybody that's ever contacted me, but it's been very interesting. So this may sound selfish, but I'm not gonna miss that. I'm like, I just want to go back to my coffee shop and fix my problems there. That will be a relief.
So there will obviously be somebody new sitting in your seat come April 2021 and beyond. What advice do you have for that person?
Oh gosh, that's a great question. My chief advice would be to not take criticism personally, and that is so hard for me to follow. But you can't make everybody happy all the time. If you aren't making someone unhappy, you're not doing anything. Like you might as well just sit, in your house and not go to the meetings. It doesn't matter what decision you make, whether it's like to fix a sidewalk or build a park or, whatever you decide to do, you're going to make someone unhappy and then that person is going to come and complain. And so the number one thing that I have to always remind myself is we are here for the good of the whole of the village. And while I always listen to complaints and criticism, you can't take it personally because it eats at you. And there have been a few times where things have really gotten to me, and I've had to go to the staff, and they've sort of had to talk me off the ledge. Um, and so that is something that everybody should know going in. You are a target. But and so if it's like this at the local level, I hate to think what it's like at the state and national level for folks. Those people just must not have any feelings. They must like have no emotions, because I don't know how you can do your job when people are constantly criticizing, and I don't want to say attacking, but criticizing you. So at some point you have to get to a point where you hear it, but you don't let it drive your vision and your goals. And that's the great balance.
That's so interesting that you say that, because I know that you started your career out in journalism, and so that's like one of the tenets of being a journalist is you're taking that, I mean, albeit hopefully it's constructive criticism, right? But yeah, you're taking that like, it's the same. You're not necessarily a public figure, but people depend on you
Mhm.
to disseminate information to them in an accurate way. So, and then of course you have editors who, so I can definitely understand that. But
Yeah.
so, well, all of that, I wish you all the best of luck, Jeannie. I know that you have a few more months left of being president, and then it's focusing more on the Firefly, and even just figuring out how the rest of this pandemic is going to pan out.
Right.
But do you have anything else you would like to add today?
Oh, wow. Okay. So the thing that I always have to say, um, I thank the folks that live in Oregon who are engaged in the process. Even the people that come to a meeting or call into a meeting now to complain, I always thank them. I'm like, hey, thanks for paying attention. Thank you for being engaged. Thank you for having an opinion in your democracy. Even when I don't like their opinion, I have to remind myself, hey, someone's paying attention. I think this last presidential election taught us that democracy does not work unless the people are involved, right? So that's one thing I want to say is we have a pretty involved citizenry in Oregon, and I want to tell people keep calling, keep coming to meetings, keep making your positions heard. You may not always get what you want, but everything that you say we listen to, and it makes a difference. So yeah, keep being involved.
I think that's a really good point to end on. And so thank you again, Jeannie, for appearing
Oh,
for
thank you so much.
today.
Yeah.
I imagine it took so much effort. I mean, you had to walk from one room to the
Yes. Right. This is our life these days.
All right. Well, that wraps up today's episode of the Oregon Minute. We will still be doing these every Thursday. Tune in at 7 p.m. As COVID cases continue to rise in the state and in the rest of the nation, I just want to implore all of our viewers to stay safe, wear a mask, and isolate the best you can, especially during Thanksgiving and Christmas. So thank you for watching, and tune in next week.